What would you do if you woke up in a hospital bed and heard the woman you love more than life whisper, she'd slept with your best friend? I never thought my life would break like this. The harsh white light burned my eyes as I came to. My body felt numb. I couldn't move. All I could do was listen to the trembling voice beside me. I love him, and you know who he is. I fought to breathe. My chest felt crushed under a massive weight. Him? Who? Silence hung in the air. Then her voice cracked, sharp as glass hitting marble. It's me and Ethan. I'm sorry. I never meant for this, but it happened. Ethan. That name slammed into my skull like a hammer. My best friend. The guy who stood beside me at my wedding, grinning as he said, "If you ever hurt Sarah, I'll take care of her." Now, that promise had become a twisted reality. I shut my eyes, pretending I was still out cold. My heart thudded out of rhythm. My throat tightened. Sarah gripped my hand. Her warm tears dripped onto my cold skin. I don't know what to do anymore. I didn't want you to find out like this, but I can't hold it in. I drew a deep breath, forcing myself to stay still. She didn't know. I heard everything. In that sterile room, with the monitor beeping steady, beep, beep, a part of me died. I used to think I'd give up everything just to hold on to her. But now, I know the only thing worth saving is me. They think I'm broken. But this time, no one gets to see me fall. I'll stay silent. And when the moment comes, I'll vanish. Without a word. I'm Ryan, 34. A software engineer who believed hard work could keep everything I loved safe. I met Sarah 8 years ago in a tiny coffee shop near campus. It was pouring rain. She sat by the window, holding a book I'd just started myself. I remember asking awkwardly, "Is it good?" And I regret only one thing, not asking sooner. She gave me a feeling I'd never known before. Like the whole world went silent every time she smiled. Ethan, my best friend since high school, was the first person I told about her. He laughed. "You? Flirting? I'll believe it when I meet her." I introduced them over dinner. Ethan, confident, funny, had Sarah laughing nonstop. I felt grateful. They click, I thought, never suspecting a thing. When Sarah and I got married, Ethan was my only groomsman. He grinned, resting a hand on my shoulder. "Relax. I've got your back." I trusted him. Trusted him enough to hand him my keys whenever I was away on business. Our marriage started quietly. I worked late nights, believing flowers and gifts would make her feel loved. She once said, eyes shining, "I'm proud of you, Ryan. Just don't forget me, okay?" I smiled. Then went back to working late. One night, I came home early, hoping to surprise her. But when I opened the door, I froze. Ethan was crouched in the kitchen, fixing a loose cabinet. Sarah stood close, her hair damp like she'd just showered. "Ryan, you're home," she said, startled, but still smiling. Ethan looked up, wiping dust from his hands. Good timing. This cabinet was about to fall apart. I forced a smile. "Thanks, Ethan." Sarah handed me a glass of juice. I asked him to swing by. The cabinet was coming loose. I wanted to believe it. But that night, lying next to her, I stared into the dark. She slept peacefully. And yet, the space between us felt like a canyon. I should have known. While I was busy chasing tomorrow, someone else stepped into the cracks I left behind. I used to think betrayal only happened to other men. The careless ones. The selfish ones. The kind who never appreciated their wives. I wasn't that man. I loved Sarah more than I loved myself. I put her above everything. Worked day and night to give her the life she deserved. But then, the cracks started to show. Sarah began clutching her phone more often, flipping the screen face down whenever I walked in. "What's so funny?" I asked one evening. She gave a faint smile. "Oh, nothing. Just the girls at the studio gossiping." One Friday, I came home earlier than planned. The kitchen light spilled warm across the floor. Ethan was crouched, fixing a loose cabinet. Sarah stood beside him, holding a cup of tea, smiling softly. That smile. It had been a long time since she'd smiled like that at me. "Ryan, you're home," she said, startled, but her eyes quickly settled. Ethan looked up, grinning like it was nothing. "Good timing. Sarah asked me to fix this." "Long time no see, man." I nodded, lips pressed tight. "Yeah. Thanks." Sarah handed me a glass of orange juice. "Sorry." I asked him to stop by. The cabinet kept squeaking. I forced a smile. Swallowed the lump in my throat. That night, I stared at the ceiling. Sarah slept with her back to me. The space between us felt like a canyon. I tried to pull her closer. I asked her out for dinner, planned a short trip. She agreed, but her smile never reached her eyes. "You're so sweet, Ryan. But I'm tired. Maybe next time." I wrapped my arms around her and whispered, "I'm sorry for making you feel alone." She placed her hand over mine, squeezed lightly, then pulled away. Ethan started showing up more, stopping by coincidentally when I wasn't home. Little messages flashing on Sarah's phone when she borrowed my laptop. "They're just friends. Don't overthink it." That's what I kept telling myself. Until one night, I woke up to find Sarah sitting in the corner of the room. The glow from her phone lit her face. She was smiling, softly. So gently, it felt like a knife in my chest. I shut my eyes, pretending to sleep. Ping. Her voice dropped to a whisper. "Yeah, I miss you too." My heart clenched. She set her phone down. On the screen, a message from Ethan. "I can't do this anymore. You have to choose, him or me." I didn't move. Didn't breathe. Sarah sighed. Swiped her phone. Slipped back into bed. Her back turned to me. I stared into the dark. 1,000 shards of glass tearing through my chest. That was the moment I knew. I wasn't the only one in her heart anymore. But they don't know I'm still breathing. And this time, I won't let anyone see me break. I started staying awake all night. Some nights, I'd lie there watching Sarah sleep, asking myself, does she still love me? Or is she just waiting for the right moment to leave? Each morning, we'd greet each other with a strained smile. I tried starting conversations about little things, a new movie, her favorite food, but every attempt ended the same. "Yeah, maybe later," she'd say flatly. I grew hypersensitive to every phone notification, every glance Sarah gave her screen before quickly switching it off. One evening, while she was in the shower, I sat in silence in the living room. Her phone buzzed on the table. A message lit up the screen. "Can I come over? I need you, Ethan." My chest tightened. I set the phone down just as the shower stopped. Sarah stepped out, wrapped in a towel, forcing a faint smile. "You're still awake? I've got to leave early tomorrow." I nodded. "Yeah, I'll sleep later." But that night, I never closed my eyes. The next day, I left work early. I wanted to come home unannounced. Part of me hoped to find Sarah alone, painting like she used to. Part of me feared I'd see something I could never unsee. Ethan's truck was parked in front of our house. I stopped a little way down the street, my heart pounding in my ears. Through the half-closed living room window, I saw Sarah sitting on the couch. Ethan stood in front of her, his hand gently brushing her cheek. I gripped the steering wheel until my knuckles turned white, my blood turning to ice. Sarah looked up, said something that made Ethan smile. Then he leaned down, and I saw their lips meet. I shoved the door open and stormed toward the house. But as my hand touched the doorknob, I froze. "If you burst in now, what will you get? A screaming match? A woman crying because she got caught?" I stepped back, collapsed onto the front steps, gasping like my chest was being ripped apart. "Let them think you're weak, so when you rise, they won't see it coming." I pulled out my phone, turned on the camera, and aimed it at the living room window. My hands shook as I hit record, but I knew I needed proof. A message from Ethan popped up on my own phone at that very moment. "I can't wait any longer. Tell him tonight. We deserve to be happy." I bit down hard, tasting blood on my lips. Part of me wanted to kick the door open. The other part felt hollow. They've already made their choice. There's nothing left for me to hold on to. That was the moment I realized. I didn't lose her today. Not even tomorrow. I lost her a long time ago. I don't remember how long I sat on that cold step. In my head, the same image kept looping. Sarah. And Ethan. Their lips touching like it was the most natural thing in the world. I used to think that if I ever saw this with my own eyes, I'd explode. I'd punch him, scream at her, and demand to know why. But now, I just felt empty. I stood up, taking a long breath to quiet the rage clawing at my chest. My hand clenched the phone with the video I'd just recorded. Some pain doesn't need an audience. Facing it alone is already too much to bear. Ethan left about 30 minutes later. As he passed me on the street, he didn't see me standing there in the shadows, watching every smug little gesture on his face. I wanted to call out his name. Wanted him to see that I knew everything. But I let him go. When I walked into the house, Sarah was sitting on the sofa, hugging a pillow. She jumped when she saw me, her eyes slightly swollen. "You're home. Why didn't you call first?" I looked at her. Really looked. For the first time in months. Sarah looked exhausted. And for a brief second, I caught something in her eyes. Fear. "You? Why are you staring at me like that?" I forced a smile onto my face. "It's nothing. I just came to grab a few things before heading back to the office." She nodded, but I noticed her fingers tightening around the pillow. When I went into the bedroom to get my jacket, I saw Ethan's handkerchief lying on her dresser. The same handkerchief I gave him years ago, now sitting neatly in this room. I let out a bitter laugh, my throat burning. "Even the keepsake between you and me. You brought here, didn't you, Ethan?" I walked out without another word. As I reached the door, Sarah called after me softly, "Don't overwork yourself, okay?" I paused for a second. I wanted to turn around, to ask her, "Does he make you happier than I ever did?" But I said nothing. That night, I drove aimlessly through empty streets. The yellow streetlights slid past my window like blades slicing my eyes. The deepest pain isn't when they leave. It's realizing you never really held them in the first place. I stopped at a small hotel and booked a room for 3 nights. During those 3 days, I called my lawyer, quietly transferred all my assets back to my family, sent in a request for an extended leave from work. And then, I disappeared from Sarah's life. Not a word. Not a goodbye. They struck me when I was at my weakest. But they don't know I'm still breathing. And this time, I won't let anyone see me break. I drove aimlessly through the night, circling the old streets where our memories still lingered. Rain lashed against the windows like cold fingers drumming a steady rhythm. Inside, I felt nothing. Not even the wind screaming outside could break through the emptiness in my chest. At every red light, I caught my reflection in the rearview mirror, sunken eyes, swollen lids, a hollow face staring back. Was that really me? In the days that followed, I came home on time, trying to live like an ordinary husband. I asked Sarah about dinner, her work, the art classes she still attended. But each answer landed like a cold pebble dropped into the void between us. "Yeah, it's fine. I'm tired. I think I'll sleep early." I tried to bring back what we'd lost. I bought her roses, the kind she used to love. I cooked the dinners we once shared. Sarah gave me a faint smile, but it never reached her eyes. Her gaze drifted somewhere far away, as if I'd become nothing more than a shadow haunting this house. That night, I sat quietly in the living room. The wall clock ticked. Tick, tick. The warm light spilling onto the walls couldn't chase away the cold settling deep in my chest. Sarah sat at her vanity, her phone's glow lighting her face. Every soft tap of her fingers on the screen cut into my ears like tiny blades. I bit my lip before finally speaking. "Sarah, are you happy? I mean, in this marriage?" She froze. Her shoulders trembled slightly before she let out a long sigh. Don't ask me things like that. I'm tired. She didn't turn to look at me. I nodded, swallowing the breath that threatened to break me. But inside, something heavy was splintering like a boulder crashing into an endless pit. That night, as Sarah slept, she shifted and whispered in her dreams. "Don't go, Ethan." I lay there, eyes wide open, staring at the ceiling. My chest tightened. A sharp pain tore through me, as if someone was squeezing the life out of my heart. I gripped the corner of the blanket, biting down until I tasted blood. Even in her dreams, she doesn't say my name anymore. The next morning, I woke up earlier than usual. I didn't want Sarah to see this empty face of mine for another day. I drove to the cafe where we first met. Nothing had changed. The old wooden table, the faint smell of coffee, soft jazz playing in the background. But Sarah wasn't there anymore. And those eyes that once looked at me like I was her whole world were long gone. I loved her more than I loved myself. I thought if I worked hard enough, if I provided enough, she'd be happy. But love isn't like work. It can't be sustained by one person's effort alone. I didn't see it coming, the emptiness in her eyes growing larger every day. And Ethan stepped into that space long before I did. That night, when I came home, the house was dark. On the kitchen table, a hastily folded note lay waiting. "I need time to think. Don't look for me." The paper slipped from my hands. Its soft rustle felt heavier than 1,000 hammers. "You don't belong here anymore, do you, Sarah?" I sat frozen in the chair, Sarah's note still trembling in my hand. "I need time to think. Don't look for me." The sloppy handwriting felt like knives stabbing into my eyes. I don't know how long I stayed there. The wall clock ticked on, swallowing the room in a heavy, suffocating silence. I glanced around. Everything was still in its place. Her shoes by the door. Her coat tossed carelessly on the chair. A half-empty cup of tea on the table. But the house had never felt colder. Never felt emptier. I got up, each step heavy and hollow, echoing through the quiet. In the bedroom, her dresses still hung neatly, carrying the faint scent of her perfume. I reached out to touch the silk scarf she used to wear, then pulled my hand back. Inside my chest, something cracked. Not loud, not violent. Just a soft, almost imperceptible snap. But it was enough to know I was falling. My phone buzzed on the table. A message from Sarah lit up the screen. "Please don't wait for me. I'm sorry. I need to be somewhere that feels right." My hands shook so hard I almost dropped the phone. "Don't wait for me." Those words echoed in my head, over and over, like a sentence being passed down. I opened my contacts. My thumb hovered over her name. I wanted to call, to pour out all the pain choking my chest. But instead, my finger drifted down to another name. Ethan. I started typing. "If you hurt her, I'll never forgive you." I stared at the words, my breathing sharp and shallow. Then I erased them. Letter by letter. I loved her more than I loved myself. I thought if I worked hard enough, if I provided enough, she'd be happy. But love isn't a contract. It can't be held together by one person's effort alone. I stepped out onto the porch, sinking onto the cold, wet steps. Rain poured down, soaking through my shirt. But I didn't move. In the darkness, the sound of rain mixed with the wind, screaming through the cracks, like sobs I couldn't force out. Sometimes we love someone with everything we have, and it's still not enough to make them stay. And all we can do is watch them walk away carrying the best parts of us with them. The shrill ring of my phone cut through the night. The screen lit up, Ethan's name. I gripped the phone tight, eyes shut hard. Maybe it's time I finally face it all. The phone rang in the middle of the storm. I stared at the glowing screen. Ethan. My finger hovered over the answer button. Two voices clashed in my head. "Pick up. Find out what he's taken from you. Don't. You won't survive it." I took a deep breath, my chest trembling, and slid my finger down. "Ryan, it's me." Ethan. His voice was hoarse, drowned in rain on the other end. I said nothing. I'm sorry. For everything. But you need to know this. He paused, as if searching for the right words. Sarah, she's not with me anymore. She left. My heart stopped cold. I clenched my jaw, gripping the phone so tight my nails dug into my skin, drawing blood. What do you mean? I asked, my voice so low I barely recognized it. She's gone. Without a word. I thought she chose me, but maybe she never chose either of us. I leaned back against the cold wall. My throat burned. A dry, broken laugh slipped out, a sound I didn't even recognize as my own. Ethan exhaled shakily, his voice cracking. Before she left, she wrote me a letter. It said, I'm sorry. Maybe I don't know how to truly love anyone. The words hit me like lightning. Sarah never really chose me. Never really chose him. I loved her so much I forgot myself. I thought if I was good enough, she would stay. But sometimes people leave. Not because we're not enough, but because they never knew what enough even meant. I ended the call. Stepping onto the porch, rain lashed against my face like shards of ice. I pulled Sarah's note from my jacket pocket, flicked a lighter, and held the flame to the paper's edge. The fire licked up the corner, but just as it caught, I blew it out. The paper was soaked, its edges charred black. And I collapsed onto the steps, my hands clutching my head. I wasn't strong enough to hold on, but I'm not strong enough to burn it either. The phone screen lit up again. This time, it was a message from an unknown number. Ryan, I'm a friend of Sarah's. I think you deserve to know where she is. I stared at the words. My heart pounded so hard it felt like it would burst from my chest. Sarah, where are you? I stared at the message. Ryan, I'm a friend of Sarah's. I think you deserve to know where she is. My heart pounded, my throat dry. I typed a few words. Erased them. Typed again. Erased again. Finally, I hit send. Please, tell me. An hour later, a reply came with an address. A small seaside town 50 miles out. Sarah once told me she wanted to go there. Bosh. To find myself again, I drove through the night. Headlights sliced through the rain like blades tearing into the dark. My knuckles turned white on the steering wheel, hands trembling. I didn't know why I was going. To beg? To demand answers? Or just to see her one last time? A part of me wanted to scream, "Come back to me," but another part feared that if she looked at me with those hollow eyes again, I wouldn't survive it. When I arrived, I saw a small wooden house by the sea. A faint yellow glow spilled from the window, swallowed by the roar of crashing waves. I stepped onto the porch, shoes soaked through. My hand lifted to knock, but froze midair. Through the window, I saw her. Sarah. Sitting at the table, her face lost, her eyes heavy, as if the whole world had caved in. I drew a deep breath, my hand trembling. I almost knocked, but I let it fall. I stood there for what felt like forever. Rain whipped my face, but I couldn't tell if it was rain or tears. If I tried to hold her back, would it even matter? But maybe loving someone means letting them be free, even if it means letting them go. The door creaked open. A soft voice came from behind me. Ryan? Ryan, you came. I turned. Sarah stood there. Her hair a little messy, her eyes tired and sunken, but they lit up when she saw me. I'm sorry, I said, my voice breaking. No, I'm the one who should be sorry, she whispered, her head bowed, tears streaming down. I never chose you. I never chose Ethan either. I was only running away from myself. I thought I'd scream. I thought I'd break things, demand why she betrayed me. But standing there, looking into her tear-streaked eyes, all I felt was pity. Pity for her. And pity for myself. The man who loved her so much, he forgot to love himself. I took her hand. It was ice cold, trembling in mine. Sarah, I used to think losing you would kill me. But now I understand. I need to learn how to love myself first. I let go of her hand and stepped back. She moved to follow but stopped, her lips quivering as if to speak. "Stay here, if this place gives you peace." I turned and walked into the pouring rain. Behind me, Sarah stood still. Her hands clenched tight, then loosened. She let me go. Maybe it'll take me a long time to forget her. But for the first time, I walked away from myself. Not as a shadow of love anymore. The sound of waves crashed behind me, but I didn't turn back. I kept walking, letting the rain lash my skin, cold and sharp as glass. Sarah didn't follow. She stood frozen under the porch light, her hands clenching and loosening, just like her mind in that moment, torn and chaotic. The next morning, I drove back to the city. The apartment greeted me with a thick, suffocating silence. I hung my soaked coat on the rack, slumped onto the sofa, and stared at the empty space around me. On the table, Sarah's coffee cup still sat there, the faint trace of lipstick slowly fading with time. Maybe she's never coming back. But worse than being left behind is realizing I abandoned myself long before she did. I picked up my phone, opened the chat with Sarah. 100 times I started typing, "Are you okay?" and 100 times I erased it. When I set the phone down, my finger brushed over saved voicemails. One started to play. Her voice filled the room, soft, warm, and so familiar it ached. "Hey, I miss you. Come home soon. I made your favorite tonight." A small laugh escaped her lips, blending with the sound of rain outside. I bowed my head to the table, hands gripping the back of my neck. A muffled sob broke through, no matter how hard I tried to hold it in. I clenched my phone, biting my lip until I tasted blood. The screen lit up, reflecting my bloodshot eyes. The man staring back wasn't the strong one I thought I was. On the third day, I started cleaning the apartment. Every object carried her ghost, her scarf, her perfume, her unfinished paintings. I packed them away, piece by piece. Not to throw out. Not to keep and torment myself. Just to put them neatly in a box, tucked in the corner of the closet. That night, as I sat reading by the window, my phone buzzed. A message from Sarah. "I'm sorry for everything. I just wanted you to know I'm okay. And I hope you'll be okay too." I stared at the screen. Part of me wanted to reply, "I still love you." But instead, I set the phone down. Love doesn't mean holding on. And forgiveness is sometimes the hardest thing of all. I don't know how long it will take to stop loving her. But I know this. I have to learn to love myself first. The next morning, I walked to the park near my apartment. I bought a new journal and wrote the first words on the page. Day 1, learning to rise from the wreckage. I closed my eyes, took a deep breath. For the first time in months, I felt a faint sense of peace. I woke up early, made a cup of coffee, and leaned against the balcony railing. The first light of day slipped through the trees, casting soft shadows across my hollow face. For the first time in months, I realized I'm still here, still breathing. And maybe that's reason enough to keep going. I started running every morning. At first, just to fill the emptiness inside me. Each step crushed the fallen leaves underfoot, soft music playing in my earbuds. My heart pounded, but this time, not from pain. On the 10th day, I bought a few small potted plants for the windowsill, something Sarah had wanted to do but never got the chance. That afternoon, I found an envelope waiting in the mailbox. On the front was her handwriting. To Ryan. My hands trembled as I held it. I stood at the door for a long time before finally opening it. Inside was a short note. "Ryan, I'm sorry for all the pain I caused you. You deserve someone who can love you with her whole heart, not a coward like me. Thank you for loving me as much as you did. Be happy, because I don't deserve to make you sad any longer. Sarah." I sank onto the steps, the letter shaking in my hands. Part of me wanted to crush it, to scream at her, "You ruined my life." But another part only wanted to whisper, "I still love you. Even if you never loved me." A choked sob escaped my throat, followed by a dry, hollow laugh. Tears fell, not loud, not violent. They simply ran down, mixing with the raindrops clinging to my face. A gust of wind swept through, sending Sarah's silk scarf, the one she'd left on the table, floating off the porch. I reached out instinctively to catch it, but stopped. The scarf danced in the air before settling gently on the grass. I stood there for a long time, staring at it like it was the embodiment of a love that had once been my entire world. Then I turned and walked back inside, leaving it where it lay. Maybe I'll never forget her. But I don't have to forget to move on. Because sometimes, losing someone is how we find ourselves again. I slipped on my shoes and stepped out the door. The streets buzzed with life, but for the first time in a long time, my heart felt quiet. I pulled out my phone, opened a dating app, then closed it just as quickly. I wasn't ready, but at least I wasn't afraid anymore. Before walking away, I glanced back at the house one last time. The afternoon sun bathed the walls in gold. And in that moment, I smiled. You're gone, Sarah. But you'll always be a part of my youth. The rest, I'll save for myself. I sat in the same old cafe where Sarah and I used to go. The wooden table by the window was still there, sunlight spilling through the glass onto the page I was writing. I've come back here many times, but today, for the first time, my chest doesn't ache anymore. 45 days since you left. 45 days without waiting for a message. 45 nights without lying awake, haunted by questions with no answers. 45 days, learning to stand again, like a child taking his first steps. The day you left, I thought my life was over. I blamed you. I blamed myself. I even blamed the world for letting me lose you. But I've come to see, loving someone doesn't mean owning them. And it should never mean trading your soul just to make them stay. My phone buzzed. A new email from Sarah. Ryan, I know I have no right to step back into your life. But I just wanted to say, thank you for loving me, for your endless patience. I hope that someday we can smile when we think of each other, without the pain. I lowered my head to the table, gripping the phone tight. I read her words over and over, each time feeling the familiar sting. But then, I realized even pain deserves a farewell. Tears fell, not loud, not heavy. Just quiet streams soaking into the page before me. Out on the crowded street, I stood still as people rushed past. Laughter, car horns, chatter, all faded. Only the sound of my own heart remained, slow, steady. She's walked out of my world, but I'm still here. And I'm still me. I reached into my pocket and pulled out a ring. The ring I once planned to slide onto her finger. The stone caught the light, and my eyes softened. I held it for a long time, then let it fall into the slow-moving river below. You were never mine. And I no longer belong to this pain. Some people enter our lives to teach us how to love, and they leave to teach us how to grow. You're not here anymore, Sarah. But you left me something precious. I've learned to love myself before I ever loved someone else. I walked down the long road, the early autumn breeze brushing past, carrying a quiet peace I hadn't felt in years. A little girl passed by and, for no reason, smiled when our eyes met. I smiled back, a real smile, no longer forced. Thank you, Sarah, for coming, for leaving, and for teaching me to love myself. The rest of my life, I'll live for me.